Hiking secrets from a really old hiker. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Bill here. So some of you can see this feather in my cap. I found a wild turkey feather as I was on the trail. I hadn't really planned on filming this morning, but a couple of things happened this morning which stimulated me into action. The first is that I realized, as I was driving up here today, that it was 32 years ago today I received my doctorate. I have a doctorate in behavioral science. But what really stimulated my idea to film today came from another hiker. I just ran into a hiker a few minutes ago, and we were talking. I do a lot of socializing while I hike. As you guys know from, if you've been watching my channel, that I hike alone. And I really don't hike alone by choice. The issue is that there just aren't very many 74-year-old hikers, or people close to my age, that can do this kind of hiking. And as we were talking, we talked a little bit about the Grand Canyon hikes, and making a turn here on the trail. We were talking a little about the Grand Canyon hikes, and I told him about the channel, and he said, you know, you ought to do a video on what the secrets are to be able to hike, especially this kind of a vigorous hike, carrying a 20 pounds of gear, what the secrets are to be able to do that into your 70s. I get this a lot, but when people find out that I'm approaching my 75th birthday, they usually say one of two things. They'll say either they want to be like me when they grow up, or they say they really hope to be able to do the same kinds of activities when they get into their 70s. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what factors come into play that have contributed what factors come into play that I believe contributes to my ability to be taking these pretty vigorous hikes, long distance hikes. Today I'm hoping to be on a 10-mile hike. We'll see if I get turned around again by the snow. To take these vigorous hikes, at this, as a fellow told me last season, he said, "You're not an old hiker, you're a really old hiker." And so let me jump into it. I think that it starts off with three different considerations. One of them, obviously, something I had no control over, is genetics. I have a good platform to start out with. I have never really been seriously ill in my entire life, you know, other than, of course, normal childhood diseases and getting the flu or getting colds. With the exception of about 20 years ago, a little bit more than that, golly, now that I think about it, it was actually in 96, so it would have been almost 30 years ago, I had the top third of my right lung removed. Doctors thought that I had a tumor in my lung. It turned out to be an infection. But other than that, I've been pretty healthy. The second thing that has motivated me much of my life, my adult life anyway, is I know that we have a finite number of days on this planet. And none of us knows how long that time will be. And as a result of it, I've never felt like, got some sun here, I've never felt like there was a day to waste. Because that day that you wasted, you'll never get back. So I've always been a very active person. You know, sitting in front of the television set is not my idea of a good time. So for example, now, at this point in my life, during hiking season, this is my routine. I will be on a 3-day cycle. Day 1, I'm in the gym, and I'm doing an upper body. Day 2, I'm in the gym, and I'm doing a core. And generally my workouts are a minimum of an hour in length. My upper body actually runs about an hour and 45 minutes. It's too long, but that's what it is. And then the 3rd day, through hiking season, I'm doing a 10-mile hike. And then I have a down day. And then it's rinse and repeat. And that's pretty much the cycle that I follow. So the second issue is I've always had an active lifestyle. And the third issue is attitude. My mantra, I've said this before on the channel, is pedal to the metal until God or fate tells me that I can't. I was on a ski lift with a fellow last year who had a similar mantra. And his mantra was, you stop, you die. And so my attitude is to stay moving. And so the final issue, I'll just simply call lifestyle and diet. But throughout most of my adult life, I have never been much of a drinker of alcohol. I don't drink beer. And if I do drink harder spirits, which is pretty rare, the only thing I do drink is a good añejo tequila. And again, I don't drink alcohol that often. The other factor is that, or I should say another factor, is that I've never been a smoker. I've never smoked cigarettes, and I think everyone pretty well understands how unhealthy smoking cigarettes is. And then the third thing is I've never been a soda drinker. In fact, my beverage of choice is water. And I drink a lot of water every day. In fact, to me, the perfect drink is a glass of ice water in the summertime or a glass of room temperature water in the winter. And those three things, I think, have really contributed to an overall healthy body that keeps me going at this point. Well, I have to say, this has been quite a pleasant surprise. I'm on a loop trail that I tried last week, and I got turned around twice on 2 different routes on this loop trail because the snow was like 3 feet deep. And I ran into one couple who had come down from the top of this trail, which is at about 7,000 feet, and they said they were battling snowdrifts on the way down. They were 4 feet deep. But this side of the trail, I'm coming in from the south, which is actually steeper and gets less sun than the trail coming in from the north. And I'm currently now at about 68, almost 6,900 feet. And the snow hasn't been a problem. If you look behind me, you can see the trail behind me. It's pretty clear. There's a little bit of snow here and there, but generally speaking, the snow is has melted enough that I at least have a dirt path around the drifts when I come into them. So this is pretty exciting. I think that I'll be able to make it to the top of the mountain without running into or being turned back by the snow. And if I can get to the top, then I'll just head down the north side of this loop, because it's always easier going downhill through snow than it is it's always easier going downhill through snow than it is climbing up through snow. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but boy, it really is looking good so far. Well, unfortunately, the bad news is I have run into some fairly deep snow on this trail. I'm traversing the side of a mountain. I'm on about 3 feet of snow, and it's blocking the entire trail. That's the bad news. The good news is that I'm only probably vertical feet, about maybe 60 vertical feet from the top of the mountain. And the next section, a downhill section of this trail, is generally a lot easier to negotiate than the uphill section. So I'm hoping to make it through. In fact, I'm hoping that this snow will break in the next 100 yards. And from a distance standpoint, I'm probably only about 400 yards from the summit of the trail. I'm just below 7,000 feet at this point. So, as far as hiking is concerned, there really are only a few things I do on the hike to ensure that I'll succeed on these hikes that I take. One of them is that before I start the hike, every time before I start a hike, what I will do is I will drink about 20 ounces of electrolyte drink before I even start. And then regardless of what the distance of the hike will be, I will drink another concoction, for lack of a better term, at the completion of the hike, which is a combination of a protein after workout drink and another combined with electrolytes. And then the third thing I do is I bring food with me on the hike. Generally what I'll do is I will have a breakfast on the hike at some point, usually about an hour and a half in, and I'll bring 2 or 3 small candy bars with me that will give me a little bit burst of energy. And I bring mango slices with me. Those mango slices are amazing in terms of their ability to regulate, at least for me, my ability to regulate my blood sugar so I don't get hungry during the hike. And that's pretty much all I do. I used to actually, on these hikes, have an energy bar, one of the Costco energy bars that gives me about 20 grams of protein. But for whatever reason, and I don't know what that reason is, within 20 minutes of having eaten one of those energy bars on the trail, I need to find a tree to sit behind. So I've kind of cut that out of my routine. Sometimes what I'll do when I get home after the hike is over is I'll have an energy bar at that point. But really that's all I do. But I want to say this in terms of talking to older hikers and, quote, really old hikers like me. You don't need to do these radical hikes that I'm doing, because I think, honestly, at 74, carrying a 20-pound pack up and down these mountains, that's a pretty intensive, a pretty extreme hike. You don't need to do that. You don't even need to shoot to do something like that. But what is important is that we stay moving every single day. Every single day we should be doing a workout on all of our joints to make sure we keep them flexible. And as I said, you don't need to do these 10, 15, 20-mile hikes that I do. Honestly, walking is one of the best exercises that you can do if you're medically cleared to walk. And, you know, walk for an hour and a half. It'll produce amazing health returns for you. And if you have an aspiration to do the kind of hiking that I'm doing, one caution that I would make is set your goals conservatively. Don't, you know, one of the mistakes I always make, and I wish I didn't do this, it's just that I do this because of my experience. When I finish ski season, what I should do is take about 2 6-mile hikes and then an 8-mile hike and then work up to a 10. Instead, because I do these 10-mile hikes so regularly, I start out the season at 10-mile hikes, and I shouldn't do that. So if you do have the aspirations to hike longer distances, what I'd suggest that you do is start conservatively. You know, the first couple of weeks, just start out at 2 miles a day. The next couple of weeks, make it 4. 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, look at 6, but build up to it gradually, because you'll be surprised how far you can get if you just take your time to try and build your stamina to get there. So anyway, folks, this will probably be the end of the hike. I'll do a closing when I get closer to the Jeep. My wife has to pick me up today because I'm doing a loop. But if I see something interesting, I will stop and videotape it. Otherwise, I'll see you at the end of the hike. I am expecting now this hike to be somewhere between 10 and 11 miles. So I'm fairly close to my pickup point. I think that this hike will come out to be between 10 and 10 and a half miles. I'm not sure exactly how far it'll be because I'm not sure where my wife is going to be parked. But all in all, second hike of the season, 10 miles plus, not bad for a really old guy. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again on this hike, and I'll see you on the trail.